If you continue to stand, please, and give honor, if you would, to the reading of His holy word. My sermon this morning is out of the book of Joshua, and it's the 2nd chapter. I'm using a translation called the Message translation, and so it may read differently from what you have in the Bible in your hands. But listen, and I want you to see the picture. Joshua, son of Nun, secretly sent out from Shittim 2 men as spies. Go, look over the land, check out Jericho. They left and arrived at the house of a harlot named Rahab and stayed there. The king of Jericho was told, we've just learned that men arrived tonight to spy on the land. They're from the people of Israel. The king of Jericho sent word to Rahab, bring out the men who came to you to stay the night in your house. They're spies. They come to spy out the whole country. The woman had taken the 2 men and hidden them. She said, yes, 2 men did come by, but I didn't know where they came from. At dark, when the gate was about to shut, the men left, but I have no idea where they went. Hurry up, chase them. You can still catch them. She actually had taken them up to the roof and hidden them under the stalks of flax that were spread out for her on the roof. So the men set chase down the Jordan Road toward the fords. And as soon as they were gone, the gate was shut. Before the spies were down for the night, the woman came up to them on the roof and said, I know that God has given you the land. We're all afraid. Everyone in the country feels hopeless. We heard how God dried the waters up of the Red Sea before you when you came out of Egypt. And what he did to the 2 Amorite kings east of the Jordan, Sihon and Og, whom you put under a holy curse and destroyed. We heard it and our hearts sank. We all had the wind knocked out of us. And all because of you. You and God, your God, God of the heaven above and God of the earth below. Now promise me, my God, I showed you mercy and I'll show my family mercy. And give me some tangible proof, a guarantee of life for my father and mother, my brothers and sisters, everyone connected with my family. Save our souls from death. Our lives for your lives, said the men. But don't tell anyone our business. When God turns this land over to us, we'll do right by you in loyal mercy. And she lowered them down out a window with a rope because her house was on the city wall of the outside. She told them, run for the hills so you don't pursue us, so your pursuers don't find you. Hide up for 3 days and give your pursuers time to return. Then get on your way. The men told her, in order to keep this oath you made us swear, here is something you must do. Hang this red rope out the window through which you let us down and gather your entire family with you in your house, father, mother, brothers and sisters. Anyone who goes out the doors of your house into the street and is killed is his own fault. We aren't responsible. But for everyone within the house, we take full responsibility. If anyone lays a hand on one of them, it's our fault. But if you tell anyone of our business here, the Lord, the oath you made is canceled. We're no longer responsible. She said, if that's what you say, that's the way it is. And sent them off. And she left and hung the red rope out the window. They headed for the hills and stayed there for 3 days until the pursuers had returned. The pursuers had looked high and low but found nothing. The men headed back They came down out of the hills, crossed the river, and returned to Joshua, son of Nun, and reported all their experiences. They told Joshua, yes, God has given the whole country to us. Everybody there is in a state of panic because of us. Please be seated. And we have to pray that the Lord would add a blessing to his holy word. Amen. Church, in your mind, I want you to take a highlight on it. And I want you to mark through verses 4 and 7 in your mind. The woman had taken the two men and hidden them. She said, yes, two men did come to me, but I didn't know where they had come from. At dark, when the gate was about to shut, the men left. But I have no idea where they went. Hurry up, chase them. You can still catch them. She actually had taken them up on the roof and hidden them under the stalks of flight that was spread out. So the men sat down the Jordan Road toward the fords. As soon as they were gone, the gate was shut. Based on the text, the title of the message today is Lying Lips and Curious Coverups. Lying lips and curious cover-ups. To say the least, we're living in curious times. These are some curious times today. There's so much information coming to us that it's getting to be overwhelming. People acting stranger. We're dealing with people who are doing the obvious things, the wrong, and saying that what you're seeing is not really what it looks like. Tell us that there's something wrong with taking babies from mothers because they're at the Mexican border. Then they say, I didn't say that after you watch the videotape of them. They say, I didn't say it. There's an affliction going around. Some people are making up new rules for themselves, and they want others to think that they don't have to abide by the same rules that they do. And when they say, make America great again, when they do everything to make America like it used to be. Don't talk to me about great again. Some of us just live a few miles from Jamestown, and we know what happened there in 16 and 19. Tell yourself, don't you try not showing up after you've been subpoenaed to appear before a judicial body. I never imagined that the day would come that any person who had an ounce of human in them would lie, make up stuff, and call it the news. Phony news is an anathema, it's an abomination, it's an atrocity. Now we've got fake news. Back in the day, there was one thing you could count on in our home every evening. There was no discussion about it. Mom and Daddy had the evening news on. I am so old school that I think there's not a handful of people in this sanctuary this morning who know who Douglas Edwards was. I knew him all my life. From 1947 to 1962, he anchored the CBS Nightly News. How about Walter Cronkite? Max Robinson? It's unimaginable that any of those guys would lie on the evening news. They couldn't lie. There probably was a law against lying during the evening news. But here we are today. We've got fake news. News that's not true. People get on TV or the radio or on the internet and just make stuff up. You know, there's a legitimate study that was done by the Department of Communications at Michigan State University that studied how commonplace in America lying is today. Their definition, lying occurs when a communicator seeks to knowingly, intentionally mislead others. The study showed that the rate of lying is around 2 lies per day for all of us. I've got to pause here and tell you that there's a social scientist that contributed to this study by the name of Bella DePaulo and talks about the man of I-95. Based on real data, a certain person after January 20th for his first 298 days in office, made 1,628 false statements. That's about 6 a day. And that was when he was in public. It's astonishing. You know, we need to pray for the brother. The Bible says in Proverbs 12:22, the Lord detests lying lips, but he delights in people who are trustworthy. What that means to us is, you better be careful about the 411 you get from Lottie Dottie and everybody. Lies are dangerous. They can cause you to lose your job, lose your family, your friends, and even your life. Tell yourself, don't be a dealer in lies. This phenomenon of lying takes us to the heart of our text. Why is Rahab in so prominent a position in Scripture about the spies that Joshua sent to Jericho? She lied about their whereabouts. Let me take you back to the story and give you some context. See, Rahab was living in a male-dominated society. In biblical times, patriarchy, a system of society or government in which the father or the elderless male is the head of the family, and descent is traced through the male line. Men ran almost everything. The scriptures that describe Rahab use different terms, but scholars refer to her as a prostitute. Feminine theologians refer to her as an innkeeper as well. Some say that she was a businesswoman. Joshua had a mission to conquer the promised land that God had commanded him to do. You see, God had Moses to anoint Joshua as his successor. It was time for Moses to die. Moses was to lead the Israelites to the promised land, but Moses sent 12 spies to scout and gather intelligence on the Canaanites. The Canaanites were formidable warriors. The majority came back with a report. 10 out of 12 came with the message that the Canaanites were as big as giants, and discouraged the idea of engaging them in warfare. God was so displeased that he made the Israelites wander in the wilderness for 40 years. And in 40 years' time, there was a new generation when Joshua took over. You know, what a dilemma we find ourselves in when we don't trust God. Sometimes we need to stop and take a look at our lives based on where we are now, where we are today, not where we used to be. You ought to take the time to look sooner rather than later. Do it now. It's never to reevaluate your relationship with God. Reevaluate your position now. You don't have to wait, church. Reevaluate position now, because you won't ever be perfect. Reevaluate your position now, because you just have to trust and believe. You believe that God loves you, believe that God will keep you and bless you, that God will never leave you alone. Believe that God will make a way out of no way. Believe that God is always on your side. Believe that God will pick you up when you fall. Believe God will hold your hand in times of trouble. Believe that God is your all in all. Well, the time Joshua sent 2 spies in secret. They were Caleb and Phinehas. Unlike the 12 that were publicly identified, that Moses sent, these were in secret. This time there was no public discussion. Joshua's 2 spies had one mission, that was to gain intelligence. 2 spies checked in at the Rahab Hampton Inn. Something special about Rahab. She upgraded their room. Okay? And I believe that she believed she was going to be a way maker. she was going to help rather than to hinder. And she was going to contribute rather than withhold. I can imagine the two spies spent the day engaged in a polite conversation with the Canaanites. However, word got back to the king that there were Israelites in the city of Jericho on an intel mission. And when Rahab received word that her place was the target of the king's men, she decided to hide the two spies on her roof and cover them up with flax. A strange and curious twist on a cover-up. And when the king's men questioned Rahab, without hesitation, Rahab decided to lie. Now, not only, this was not just any old kind of lie. She told a whopper. It was a convincing lie. And when confronted by the king's men, Rahab flat out told them, they ain't here. I can see her now. She was styling a cute, medium afro cut, and had bubbly eyes, and an intriguing smile. She probably made an old man wish for younger days. Y'all ain't saved. So, what kind of lie was it that Rahab told? The Bible says, don't go there. Don't go there. White lies and little lies. How about when the phone rang and you know it's a salesman? And you said, tell him I'm not here. It's a lie. Theologians do not support situational ethics. Revelation 21:8 says, all liars shall have their part in the lake which burns with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. It's very sad and surprising when Christians try to defend lying. The truth of the matter is that the story of Rahab doesn't end with the spies escaping without conversation with her. There's more to the story. Believe the spies escaped Rahab without them first hearing from her heartfelt commitment to and belief in God. Rahab confessed her knowledge of the Lord, the God of Israel. She confessed the nation of Canaan were terrified at the rumor of Israel's coming to invade them. Rahab told them that they had heard how the Lord had dried up the waters of the Red Sea when they came out of Egypt. Rahab went on to tell the spies that they knew how the Israelites had destroyed the kings of the Amorites. The word was received, rendered the Canaanites with no spirit to defend themselves. Rahab confessed that the Lord your God is the God of heaven above and earth beneath. Rahab had the courage and the moral fiber to tell the truth. Having showed herself as a believer, the two spies swore that she, too, as well as her father's house, would be spared. Rahab lured the spies out the window with a scarlet rope. And she tied the rope in the window after she let them down. When the battle of Jericho was fought, God did what he said he would do. Isn't that just like God? So Rahab hung a red ribbon out of the window of her house. Rahab knew that God's grace is sufficient. I'm going to say goodbye now, First Baptist, because the red ribbon represented the blood of Christ, and through his shed blood we know salvation. Is there anybody here that knows about the blood? The blood that Jesus shed for me way back on Calvary. The blood that gives me strength from day to day. It will never, no, never, it will never lose its power. God bless you.